Welcome to Sound the Horn Sports Show. I'm so excited to host this groundbreaking program that will broaden the Jackson sports scene's awareness regionally and nationally. My goal is to highlight sports in Jackson, the state of Mississippi, and nationally by utilizing my 25 years of Division I athletic administration knowledge, and my guests will be experienced leaders in sports. The guests on the show will share a behind-the-scenes, unique, and informative glance of the world of sports. Please join me every Monday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on WeBelieveDigital.com. Welcome to the Sound the Horn Sports Show. I'm your host, Derek Horne. My guest today is going to be a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. His name is Coach Rod Barnes, the head coach at Cal State Bakersfield. Coach B, how you doing today? Well, you know, back in the day, I had a few more choice words for you that I can't say over the air, but we'll go with Coach Barnes today. I'll tell you when we get off the air.
Well, great, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And
Yes.
what we usually do with our show in our first quarter, we talk with our guests and ask them to just tell us a little bit about themselves, hometown, and also just talk about your high school and some of the sports you participated in high school.
Well, you know, I started. I'm from I think we call it a village now, Satarsha, Mississippi. It's right outside of Yazoo City, about 30 miles northwest of Jackson, Mississippi. So that's where I was born and raised. Went to Bentonia High School, which now has consolidated. They're called Yazoo County High School. And, you know, started playing baseball. That was my first sport. My father started a Little League baseball team, and I started playing, I think, when I was about 9 or 10 years old. We played some basketball, but I didn't start organized basketball until I got to middle school. And you know, it's been a love for me of still baseball, basketball. And then after I got a chance to go to college, I really started to get into college football. So just a country boy from out of the Delta there in Mississippi.
Yeah, we talked about your baseball. Just on a side note, did you watch Ole Miss play in the College World Series this past week?
I did, and really proud of those guys. And Coach Bianco, obviously, both you and I know him. And man, it's been a long journey, a rewarding kind of year. Obviously, they got off to a tough start, and you know, I was really excited when they got, you know, they were the number one team in the nation at the beginning of the year, and then you know, they went 7-14, and I was thinking, wow, that's a really talented team. Must have been the people that was ranking them, and then all of a sudden they got hot. And man, it was just a great story, great for the university and for the state of Mississippi, and really proud of those guys.
Yeah, as you said, you know, we both had a chance to work with Coach Bianco, and one thing that he's going to be is consistent, and he has a plan. He works his plan, and I was just happy for him, and he got it together, particularly with that pitching. I think the pitching was just unreal, but.
Yeah.
That was just a side note, because I know that you did talk, you know, you did mention baseball, but when you were in high school,
Right.
Who were some of the toughest opponents you played against in high school?
We'll probably start off with Casey Fisher. And again, I know you had him on the show, and Casey was playing out of Utica, you know, high school. And man, we had a bunch of rivalries. One of the other guys that I played against that was really tough, I didn't get a chance to play against him much, but a couple of times, that was Joe Coleman. And he came out of Forest Hill High School. But Casey Fisher is the guy that kind of was our magic and bird to each other. You know, we really pushed each other. We competed against each other. And I think that's the reason that both of us had really successful college careers, because of just a competition. And then it was a healthy conference, you know, competition. And we're still friends to this day.
Well, I know now Pastor Fisher. Didn't know him that well when we were in college, but got a chance to to get to know him in Vicksburg, and he speaks highly of you and holds you in high regard.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like what you just said, man. We get off the air, I really tell you about Casey, but since we on air, we'll just take that he's Pastor Fisher and say all the say all the great things about it. But when we get off the air, we'll really discuss Casey Fisher, not Pastor Fisher. Okay, great friend of mine.
I got an idea, but and as I say, I'll leave it at that. Well, Coach, you had some success in high school, winning some state championships. Kind of talk about your teammates and your coach and how that just kind of came together.
Well, first of all, it was, obviously starting there in 1980, and I graduated in 1984. And like you said, we won 2 state championships and played for another one. The thing was, to me, and I'll say this today, even back in 1980, there was some recruiting going on. I had a couple of high schools that were recruiting me and had seen me play in middle school, and a few schools that were trying to get me to transfer away from my local high school there. But I decided to stay. That's kind of been my thing, to build something special. Our team had not been good. The program had not been great before I got there. And we had a couple of cousins and some great guys, one guy we called Cowboy Harris, that was really, really good. Adrian Yancey, those guys. Even a guy that went there to Jackson State by the name of Willie Demas. We ended up putting some great teams together. I played on one of the backcourt with my cousin there for 1 year, Bobby Luckett, and man, we had a great time. John, we call a lot of people call him Buddy. John Buddy Smith, who's now passed away, but he was kind of the guy that really, taught me a lot about playing a lot of different kind of ways and gave a lot of freedom to me and to our team. So we pressed a lot. We tried to play fast, and we just really enjoyed some great times, and we had some great teams.
Well, you mentioned Joe Coleman, and if you could, in his high school days, just kind of describe what kind of athlete he was, because I can tell you one thing, he had one of the prettiest shots I'd ever seen.
Well, I didn't have a pretty shot, but you know that. I mean, it went in sometime. I kind of forced it to go in. I didn't have great form, but if you were looking for someone that had a great form, Joe Coleman was the guy. Really athletic, had good size, got up high on his jump shot, really smooth kind of player, could move a whole lot faster when you're playing against him than when you looked at him. When you were in the stands or you was watching him from the side, you thought, okay, this guy, he's kind of slow, and we used to call him Slow-Mo Joe at times. But then when you got on the floor with him, man, he had a gear and he could take off and he could pull up with his jump shot, and really just, he was part, I guess, of that group of guys when you started talking about Casey, because we all came out as really good guards. But he was the one that was at that time, because of being there at Forest Hill, and he played well and scored a lot. He was the one the most highly thought of out of the group. But a great dude, man. Just enjoyed it. Joe was a funny guy, but one of those guys that you thought when he came out of high school that maybe one day with his jump shot he could have played in the NBA.
Yeah, he had a pure shot, and that's why I say just when you see him, just the form, emptying the bucket. You know what I'm talking about? It was just picturesque. Now, you talked about being recruited from high school to high school. Let's talk about your recruiting process from high school getting ready to go to college. If you can kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, the thing is, and I could tell you, which I'm sure you have the same kind of things because you and I have talked about it. I mean, I actually was recruited by some good schools and really had my eyes on some other schools also. I mean, I had, really back those days, man, I watched Alcorn State with Coach Whitney and those teams, man, and really loved them, but used to listen to them on the radio all the time, but then they didn't really recruit me. The same thing with Coach Covington there at Jackson State. He came in kind of late, but I got recruited hard by Southern Miss, Ole Miss, Auburn, and the coach there at Auburn was Tavesta Anderson, who I still have conversation with every so often, especially when he was still coaching. I used to talk to him all the time, but now that he's retired. But really what happened, I was, headed to a visit down to Auburn, and Coach DeVelsa called me and told me they had taken another player. And then I went on a visit and to Southern Miss, and really thought that's where I wanted to be. Coach Robert McInnes, who was from Satartia, so he knew me and grew up, knowing me from when I was a little kid. And he really, really liked me. But right after the visit, Casey Fisher committed to Southern Miss. And, most of us back then was taking 2 or 3 visits. So then I went to visit Ole Miss, and I knew the rivalry Casey and I knew how good of a player he was. They had another guy in the backcourt at that time. And I just decided I thought the best thing for me was to go to Ole Miss. But, you played a big factor in that. Once I got to Ole Miss, for my visit there, I felt really at home, felt comfortable with the people, thought there was some opportunities there for me to play. But really just once I got to Ole Miss, I kind of felt like, hey, this is home, and this is where I needed to be. And this was where I could kind of build a legacy. But most importantly, I thought I could get a good education there.
Well, the thing that you mentioned Coach Anderson. He probably at that time was probably one of the top recruiters in the country. And what's so amazing about your story, my story is similar with him, because Auburn was only 3 hours from where I grew up, and I was really enjoying getting to know him when I played football. And I really didn't know that I could take visits on the weekend. I would play and, rest on Saturday. So when I was getting ready to go ahead and make my decision to go ahead and take my visits, I called Coach Anderson and said, Derek, I'm sorry to tell you, we made our commitments in that position, your position. But God has a purpose for what he does. I ended up going to Ole Miss and going on my visit and fell in love with it. And I guess the blessing is I met my wife there. So, there's a silver lining in it all. But it goes back to going where you're comfortable. And that's where, for me, and when you came on the visit, I'm pretty sure when I visited with you, those were the things that not only I shared, but I showed.
Well, there's no question about that. I mean, I think some of the times, oftentimes say, it's a responsibility of the assistant coach to get the guys on campus. I mean, you're trying to get the best players that you can on campus. But one of the big things that some people look over all the time is the student athletes. It's the players that are already there. It's the experience that they have. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with, whether, you got the most confetti or who got the most, people at the game or whatever. It has something to do in those times when you're with that host, like I was with you, and you're around the student athletes and, just seeing how they are. And also one of the biggest things, and I'll say this because of my experience with you, I'm all the time trying to link up one of my current student athletes with one that we're recruiting, because if they have a like-mindedness and they can kind of relate to each other, it just makes the visit go better. And oftentimes, as you were, and I toward the end of my career, we started to be the guys that we hosted most of the people, because Coach trusted us to host the guys, because we knew that we would be, tell them the truth, but also show them a good time, but give them very substance when they're on their visit.
Well, those are the things that even as an administrator, I try and tell recruits when they come in, ask all the questions you need to ask. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. Make sure that this is the place that you can be when you're not in practice. Those are the things that I use as my, my checklist, because I knew we weren't going to practice 24/7. So I, like the community, like my classes, like my teammates, so those are the things that I think kind of missing a little bit now because of the rah-rah and all of the pomp and circumstance and the bells and whistles. And this transfer portal, and we'll get to that in the fourth quarter, this transfer portal is going to stay fertile, because a lot of people are making decisions not because that's where they want to be, but they're making emotional decisions that, they don't put them where they need to be. And, what we're going to do, B, we're going to go ahead and put a pin in that right now. We're going to go ahead and give our sponsors an opportunity to share some information with our viewers, and we'll be right back.
Wedding, milestone anniversary, or corporate event, 5-Star Lodge is the rustic elegance you need for your event space. With hardwood and stunning chandeliers, this is just the beginning of the 5-star treatment. Our on-site venue manager will ensure all details exceed your expectations. We offer a luxurious bridal lounge, beautiful reception hall, cabins, and an outdoor pavilion on the water. Visit 5stareventlodge.com to get started on your most memorable experience.
Welcome back to the second quarter of the Sound the Horn Sports Show, and I have on, since he wants me to call him this in public, Coach Roderick K. Barnes, the head coach at Cal State Bakersfield. He doesn't want me to call him anything but Coach Barnes now, so I'm gonna be obedient.
Hey, D, you messing with me already. I think everyone on the show after they see it, they're gonna see who was the elder on the team and who y'all picked on all the time when I was younger. So it's still happening to today. But I'll take it.
I tell this story. My freshman year, I got there at Ole Miss, and we were going through pickup, and I'm guarding Cecil Dow, and all of a sudden I run into a brick wall, and that was Carlos Clark. He set a pick on me, and they said, "Well, freshmen, we don't call picks for freshmen." So I said, "Okay." So my next time, every first scrimmage. So it was your first practice scrimmage with us, and boy, you came, but you were down in that defensive stance. I said, "Okay, I'm finna get this one."
Hey, Derek, the thing is about that, man, and I tell our players about that till this day. I mean, I tell them about, when I first got there, and obviously I wasn't arrogant, but I was a kid with a lot of confidence, and I figured out real quickly. I had a lot to learn, and during that first, semester especially, you think people are picking on you, and those kind of things happen. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm down, and I'm thinking, hey, man, I'm going to get after this guy. Next thing I know, man, I am laying down, and it was kind of a little bit different then. Guys were kind of like, man, get up, let's go. They kind of tell you, just encourage you or pull you up, say, man, you all right? And man, I got that, and as a young player, you holler, why you don't call a screen? Why you don't call a screen? And like, man, we ain't calling no screens for you. So you kind of in that stage, and it just keep happening. And I can remember a game that we were playing, and you probably can remember the story better than I can because I've told so many different stories to our players about when you used to always tell me, hey, bring him this way, B, bring him this way, B. And man, guys would be pressuring me because I'm not that fast. I wasn't that athletic, but I knew you had set that crackback screen that I was going to be all right. So I would kind of mess with the players like, hey, man, come on. Come on, get up on me. You can't take my ball because I knew we're going to lay him down here in a minute. So hey, D, come get him, man. Like, get him up off me.
Yeah,
we're not going to tell. I'll let you tell the story about you breaking somebody's nose. I won't tell that, so because I don't want any lawsuits coming back on me.
Hey, B, the statute of limitations is up right now, so I can tell you what it was. We were playing Tennessee in Rupp Arena, and that little point guard was just all up on you. I say, B, when I raise my hand, you bring him this way. I'm talking about you came real quick. I popped that joker right in the nose. Didn't get a foul call. Joker walking down the floor dazed. He looking all up in the stand. I say, B, I got him, B. I got him.
Hey, I looked at him afterwards, man. His nose was crooked. And I went, oh, my goodness. I mean, he took it for real, but he was trying to put a lot of pressure on me. But again, I didn't make that. You made that comment. And so, like you said, statute of limitations is over. But, man, those were some things that even I tell our players to this day. And just, the roles that guys should play and how important it is to be, close as teammates and like brothers and look out for each other on the court, but also off the court.
Well, I think for me, and you and I have talked about this. I think when you came down to my sister's wake, I always talked about I played
Mhm.
facing the basket, and you didn't believe it. And all my former teammates were telling you that. But when I got to Ole Miss, we had a bunch of guards, and I wanted to play. So coach said he wanted me to be that
Right.
defensive stopper, and he wanted me to, and I took it to heart, and
Yeah.
I think what it helped me out going through that situation where you share with people. If you sacrifice one thing, you might be getting an abundance in something else. And that's
There's
what
no
I took
question
from
about
that.
that.
And as you know, I played a lot, enjoyed myself, got a college degree, had a chance to play a little bit overseas. But for the most part, as you always talk about, and I do, make your college experience a great experience. And I had a good time.
Well, I think one of the things, and I think, as we look back through our life and the things that we've gone through off the court, those experiences that you had on the court, where you've taken jobs that you had to take a role, you've been in situations where you knew you had the talent and the ability to maybe do more, or, had something that you really felt like strongly about, but you took the team and placed it in front. And obviously, you being I still call you an athletic director. So, but still, I can remember when you was working there as a manager with the trucking company, and just conversation that we had. You start to, those things you start to reflect on, and you start to realize I became successful because of the experience I had. Maybe if you had played, facing the basket, things would have obviously maybe been better basketball wise, because I thought you could handle the ball. And it was when I came out of Milledgeville camp down there, where they had one of the biggest camps in Milledgeville, Georgia. That was my first time having the experience of seeing somebody 6'8", 6'9", Magic Johnson, that can handle the ball. And then when I got to college, and I could see you with your size running up and down the floor. And I thought, well, this is what college is really about. Even a few times I thought about, man, maybe I'm not athletic enough or talented enough, even though I feel like I have the heart and I love basketball enough. But, maybe the route would have been different. It's the same thing with me throughout my career. I look back, at the things I've gone through personally, and the sacrifices that I've made and the way things have gone in my life. Ole Miss, prepared me, and those teams and my teammates prepared me for what I go through still to this day.
Well, we talked about how tough we were to each other. Tell me who were some of the toughest opponents, or I would say maybe being specific, some of the toughest players you played against while you were at Ole Miss.
Well, I mean, the toughest guy, and still I try to figure out sometimes how I could have guarded the guy better. Uh, you know, I just started to think when we played against Chuck Person, but then I didn't play that much, so I thought right away, man, as you just said, you out there with guys that are 6'8", 6'9", that are shooting threes and running the floor and faster than you were. You started looking at things like that was in it. Willie Anderson was a tough guard, for our team there out of Georgia. Ended up going on to the NBA. One guy that I couldn't keep up with at all. We had to kind of keep somebody in the backcourt to try to help me with him. Was it Vernon Maxwell
Oh
out
yeah.
of Florida? I mean, he was one of those guys that, man, you just had to get back. But probably one-on-one guard, someone that I took personal against, but he still, I think one night had 50 on us, was Tony White out of Tennessee. But if I had three guys to say, those three guys were different, and then in their play, but man, just being out there on the court with them, they all were tough to guard, tough to play against.
Well, you mentioned names that both of us had a chance to play against, and as you mentioned, the Vernon Maxwell, I think that his best attribute was his motor. He was
Yes.
nonstop. He was all over the floor. Very strong as it relates to will. You couldn't get in his head. You could talk to him all day long. It didn't make a difference because he's still going to put about 30 on you. But he was, he was a tough opponent. So we talked about preparing ourselves for lives, but how did Ole Miss or your experience really prepare you for the career that you moved into?
Well, I mean, on the court, I mean, again, to build the relationships and friendships and, be where, we were kind of underdogs at the time and to be with a band of brothers that really, I think, truly care for each other. Being in a conference that really tough. I mean, you start thinking about Ole Miss, and that's why, we can be so proud of our baseball team because sometimes the competition in that league is just unbelievable when you just talk about the universities that, make up the SEC. But then off the court, I got a chance to meet some people and really, meet some of the great leaders, in the state of Mississippi, having the opportunity to be during a time of change. And that's something that I think some of the students now that are going there, some of the things that you and I experience, obviously the university is continuing to grow, but there wasn't a whole lot of diversity, at the university. And just to go through those things and experience what we would experience on a daily basis. I can remember one of the English classes I went to, and again, there at Bentonia High School, I think it was probably 60-40 ratio, and here I am in English class, and I'm only black male in the class, and I'm looking around like, where are my friends and my buddies? So it helped me to now that when I go into rooms, I'm confident, I feel good, I feel like I belong when I go into places and help to bring about diversity and equality. So just that whole experience prepared me for my professional career.
If you can go back and talk to Rod Barnes at the age of 18, what would you go back and tell Rod at that time?
Well, I would tell him, don't be afraid. I mean, even in what some of the things that I experienced, it's so much more that I could have experienced. I could have been so much more involved with what was going on on campus there in the community of Oxford, even doing more things in the state of Mississippi during that time at a young age when, we had a lot of energy and we had a lot of freedom to do a lot of things. And, as I look back, I allowed some opportunities to pass me by that I probably should have got more engaged. So I don't know whether you call it more adventurous because I did have some adventures, but probably just experiencing more holistically. I was more of an athlete, even though I went to class and graduated. But more of my whole life was surrounded about trying to be a better basketball player. Where I would tell my younger self, it's more about being holistic and taking the full advantage of the opportunity that we had.
And I think that's the thing that should resonate with a lot of young people that go to college. Not everybody's going to play professional ball, but you have a better
Right.
opportunity for a career with a degree. And I think that's where, just as you talked about, and both of us, if I'm not mistaken, we're both business majors. So when
Yes.
you got into your
Hmm.
junior and your senior year, you definitely didn't see anybody look like you in those classrooms. So you had to open up, you had to communicate, you had to, study groups, all these things. You had to be a big part of them. And I do things now, and I'm taking a few courses now, working on a master's, and I sit back and a lot of the things that I reflect on are not just work related, but I can reflect on what we
Right.
went through as young people developing into our careers, and I wouldn't take anything for granted.
Definitely.
Just like you said, we had some challenges, and we were always the underdog, but we had fun. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. No, no, no. I was agreeing with you because it's just as you said. I wouldn't change anything because of where we are and what my life and it's just like you talked about. Regardless, the years that you had with your wife is worth everything that you had gone through before to get to the point where you are today. But along with that, man, you carrying along experiences and man, what you've learned the wisdom that you've gained. No one can take that away from you. And I tell and encourage my players and a lot of my friends, I said, hey, man, be true to yourself. So wherever you can go, you can be an impact. You can be a game changer because of who you are and what you believe in. And I believe that, I think Derek Horne can be successful wherever Derek Horne, goes, because the game and the person that he is. And that's why I tell our players, man, have your game where it can travel. And that's what I mean about life. Be where you can go anywhere. And because of who you are, what you've been through, because we went through a lot, that you can make it work. And I've seen you do that, at different jobs that you had and things you've gone through. You've made it work, and then you've been successful at it. And a lot of that has, go back to, how you was raised, but also, the education and the things that you experienced, as you grew as an adult.
Well, B, we're going to go ahead and put a pin in that right there, because what I want to do when we come back in the third quarter is talk about family, because I know that's big to you and it's big to me. And once we go ahead and give our sponsors an opportunity to share with our viewers, we'll be right back.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome back to the third quarter of the Sound the Horn Sports Show, and I have on Coach Rod Barnes from Cal State Bakersfield, and we've talked a lot about our experiences as student athletes, but one thing that I wanted to share, because it means a lot to me, and they did and they still do, is your family. When I was a student, my home was about 8.5 to 9 hours away, and I couldn't go home for every holiday or every break, and I had a chance to spend time with you and your family, and it was so enjoyable. But if you would, maybe just kind of share about how important it was for you to be where you were and your family to be able to see a number of your games.
Well, it was really important, and especially with the opportunities I had and the people that recruited me, and during that time, I just thought, I wanted to be an impact not only there for my high school and my community, but also wanted to do it, most importantly, just for my family. And my family was able to experience it. My mother graduated from high school. My father finished with an 8th grade education. So it was really important for me to get an education. It was important for me to have those experiences with my family. And that was really, really big for me during that time. But as you said, I was so happy, Derek, a lot, because you would come home and then my mom would cook, and she would cook a lot. Sometimes my mom would just, when I would come home, she would say, go in there and get you a sandwich, and I'm thinking, man, I hope Dee can come home with me this weekend, because, man, we're going to get a chance to eat real good. But like you said, family, just even with your mother and father, I remember them traveling, coming there, and just would take some words. Sometimes, man, when you just got guys that are men that are with wives, they would just say little things to you, just at the brink of a second, man, and you think about it for a week and say, what was he saying? What was he saying? And that was it, man. And just love, again, family. My mom still lives with me out here in Bakersfield today, and that's what it was built on, and that's what we try to do with our team, with our student athletes. We build a team and say, hey, man, we're a family. My mother is Bob. One of my sons worked for me. Another one worked around, within the athletic department. And, my wife is always involved in talking to the guys and feeding them and encouraging them. And it's just, we believe in a village raising young people. And that's what we try to surround our young people here with a village, so that they can feel comfortable. Those that are away from home, they can have a sense of family here, right here at the university.
Well, you and I have talked about this, and it was great to have your family there, but particularly your dad, because you might have a tough game or something like that, or you might not get the minutes you think you wanted or you needed, and because we would always go up the steps and sit up and talk with him, after the game, and he would always say, "Keep your head up," or he said, "Don't worry about it, just keep working hard." And it's like you said, you need men and families to keep encouraging you, particularly when you're far away from home, and it's a tough time. And my parents always appreciated you, and they thought very highly of you. And I think that's one thing that even when I look back on it, we had a good collection of guys that we hung around, and at the end of the day, that's what your college experience is about. It's about the people that you can enjoy and your ups and downs with, but for the most part, we still got those good old stories we can tell at the end of the day.
And as you said, man, no matter whether we talk every day, every week, once a month, once every 6 months, once a year, guys still have that same kind of care and love for each other and concern for each other. And again, that's what it's all about. It's all about, just building solid. And I thought we really had on our team some really good relationships, and guys really helped each other out and helped each other get through, whether that was on the court or in the classroom, or just even family issues. And to me, that's the experience that we had, and that's the experience that we need to continue to have in college athletics.
Yeah, that's the thing that, and I've worked in it for over almost a quarter of a century, and just as an administrator. And I try and tell the young people that this is just a snapshot in your life. Don't blow it. And the decisions that you make now, they're going to follow you for a long time. And they think that those things might not follow them. But, back in the day, we didn't have Facebook, Twitter, none of that stuff, TikTok. So whatever they do is captured, in perpetuity. So it's always best for them to put themselves in a position of, and I like what Herm Edwards said is, when you do something, think about that intro to, to ESPN Sports Center, particularly if you're an athlete, because the first thing they're going to do is they're not going to say your name. They're going to say the school you represent, then they're going to say your name. So it's always good to really make sure that you put yourself in a position that you represent your institution, with the best of your ability.
Well, I do, and I agree with you. It's some of the things that we talk about with our team and tell them, because they're here at Cal State University, Bakersfield, that's first of all, that name and who you represent is something, and it's important. And then I tell them just our program, the guys that have been and the guys that are following you. It's important that you leave and present a really good reputation. And then you have that jersey, the name on the back, which to me is just as important as the name on the front. What will they say? What does it mean to when you say the Barnes family or the HORNE family or the Coleman family? What does it say? What does it mean? And that's important because, and you know how it is, the things that we experienced even back then and the way guys were and people around us were, it carries a long way, and oftentimes, like you said, and I tell them, this is really the last, line of defense that we're having before you're in the real world. So the habits, the character, who you are, you have a chance to formulate that, right now, and whatever base that you sit out to be, then you can build on that. And I think sometimes, and we stress that, I oftentimes tell our players, I'm a life coach first, because I just know this game of basketball gonna, a lot of people say the air gonna go out of the ball, but you're gonna have to live a life, and how you treat people, right now is important, because that's who develop and who you are, the experiences you had. I mean, you and I talked about this, and I won't talk about this too long. My experience of going on my visit there at Ole Miss and having that visit, and you were the host, and how you were on the visit set the tone for the experiences and where my life is today. You know, obviously, if I have to keep on, but when you found a good dude, got their priorities straight. So those experiences that I had in college, still today, has helped me to be who I am today. But if I had had bad experience, and I know you know this as an administrator, we talk about, just the experience that the young people have and giving them the opportunity to hear they have some success. And the student athlete experience is really big time, which it wasn't at the forefront back then, but it is now. And that plays a factor in who, we are and who our young people become as they move forward in life.
Now, we talked about your experiences there at Ole Miss, and now you have a chance to come back and serve as an assistant coach under Rob Evans. What was that experience like coming back to take all the things that we talked about? Because I know my experience going back to work in administration, I took it to heart because I could feel the heartbeat of almost every student athlete that walked by because I knew exactly what they were dealing with. How was it when you got a chance to go back and work with the program that you played for?
Well, I mean, obviously, it was a blessing just to get the opportunity. I had been there at Livingston University, which now is called West Alabama, just to have that experience, to have the opportunity to come back. Coach Rob Evans is a mentor, a father figure to me, and one who taught me a lot about the game and about this business. But to have the opportunity to do it for my alma mater, to have the opportunity to help the young men that was coming up. So I knew the pluses and the minuses, the pros and the cons. And I thought it was my job, and I took it to heart to help those young men have a better experience than I had, even though I had a great experience, but I knew that I could help make things better. Just to represent, again, to be there in the state of Mississippi and represent Mississippi and represent my community and where I came from and my family. Meant so much to me. Every day that I went to work, I felt like I needed to prove that we belonged. And I thought we had great success. And I thought if you look back over the players and student athletes that we coached during the time, those guys are doing great. And I think it's just, it's because of their experience at Ole Miss and playing under Coach Evans and having a staff that truly was, about really their success and helping them be really productive young men.
When you were an assistant, who were some of the players that stood out doing that? 'Cause we're going to get to your stint as the head coach, but as an assistant, who were some of the players that kind of stood out that you recruited and then you saw them turn around and be great athletes?
Well, I thought Ansu Cisse was probably, a guy that I think was one of the greatest players to ever play at Ole Miss. I mean, from Houston, Texas, a young man that was kind of like, as you spoke, Derek, not as physical and tough as you were, but, he's 6'8", 6'9", that can really handle the ball and shoot the ball. Another guy, that's there now that's as the athletic director, Keith Carter. I thought Keith was someone that came out of Arkansas, small town there, Perryville, Arkansas, and man, you could just see him grow. I think he had one scholarship offer, and that was to Central Arkansas, and that was Division II. And that was the thing about our program. We found a lot of guys that people would say was probably, underrated or whatever, but they were rated high in our book, and we had high expectations for them. Michael White, I thought was a really strong, tough point guard. Probably the guy that I thought overcame was probably more as anyone is Jozon Darby, who came out of Jackson, Mississippi, and just ended up being there, becoming a fan favorite, and came from a very tough background, and now he's doing well out in Dallas, Texas. Just one of those guys that you kind of look at and say, man, we changed, we transformed his life. and through his experience that at Ole Miss. So he sticks out, whether his numbers sticks out or whatever, they stick out. I just thought that team and those teams that played under Coach Evans, we had a combination of, parts, not great players at every position, but they were a great team because they would work together. Undersized post man and Anthony Boone, who's probably has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever coached. So I really love those guys, and there was many, many more guys, but those guys stand out because that's when we had a lot of success, not only on the court, but off the court. And that's when I think people started to recognize on a consistent basis Ole Miss basketball.
Well, I tell you, you mentioned one name, and I'm glad you brought him in there because, back then I'd go play pickup with him, and I've run into a lot of hard people. I played Barkley, Melvin Turpin. I'm talking about I played some of the most physical people. Kenny Walker. That Anthony Boone is hard as a brick house. I'm talking about I went in there and tried to post him up. I couldn't move that kid anywhere. Nicest temperament. Very, 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 very nice. But I'm telling you, that's probably one of the most physical people that I've ever been around.
Well, when I thought about that, man, and it's interesting you say that, when I put Anthony Boone in a category with Carlos Clark and Derek Horne and Cecil Dow, guys you don't want to play against. There may be some other talented guys, and guys that were great, like Ansu Cisse, man, I'm telling you, that guy could score the ball. He had great athleticism. But I'm telling you right now, my first pick is Carlos Clark. My first pick when you were playing with Derek Horne, because I didn't want to play against you. You're like, come on, D, I got you, man. I was happy when you called me. I'm like, oh, man, I ain't got to get through them screens. And D going to be knocking me around. So Anthony Boone was that kind of guy. Very humble, young man, a gentle giant. But, boy, when you got on the floor, you talk about just physical and tough and would hold his ground. And that's why he made our team a really good team.
Well, B, we're going to go ahead and put a pin in this third quarter. We're going to try and bring this fourth quarter home solid. And at this point, we're going to give our sponsors an opportunity to share some information with our viewers.
SGECOVIDsolutions.com is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols developed internationally by top virologists and scientists using an all-natural cleaning solution, killing COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. For more information, please call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at SGECOVIDsolutions.com. Let SGECOVIDsolutions.com provide innovative rapid facilities testing and world-class state-of-the-art biorisk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs. Call 1-800-281-9080 or visit us online at SGECOVIDsolutions.com.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
Welcome back to the fourth quarter of the Sound the Horn Sports Show, and Coach Ward Barnes and I are going to try and see how we can close this out strong. And we were talking about your time as an assistant coach at Ole Miss, and we're going to move you over one seat. And let's talk about that experience serving as the head coach.
Well, obviously it was a blessing. I wouldn't even say a dream come true, because I never had any dreams of becoming a head coach there at Ole Miss. Really, I have been a person all my career and life. My dad just taught me, just do the work where you are, and try to make things better than what they were when you got there. And that's what I was trying to do as an assistant coach. And Coach Evans had, decided to go to Arizona State and be the head coach there. And, I had been a part of helping us, win back-to-back championships there and going to the NCAA tournament, and just thought I would give it a shot. Let me take a stab at it. And I encourage young administrators, young coaches, that when you're working for someone, first of all, make yourself valuable, but also, learn. the do's and the don'ts. Just don't do your job from 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30 or whatever it is. I spent a lot of time talking, traveling with Coach Evans, going through why he was doing what he was doing. Not only that we were doing things, but why were we playing this way? Why does he say the things? Why does he treat the kids? Why do we play these games? So when I got the opportunity, and again, it was something that after I got it, I was really excited. I get a chance to be the head coach and, an opportunity to make an impact in the state of Mississippi and represent my university. It was unbelievable just to have that position. But I went right to work. I mean, my thoughts were, we've got to get back to the NCAA tournament. We've got to continue to build the program. And I didn't want to let those down that hired me. I didn't want to let the university down, the former players that had helped me be in the position I was in. But I also didn't want to let my family down, just the name, as I talked about it before. And I thought we did a really good job there, and I really enjoyed myself there. And we got a bunch of wins, but we also produced a lot of student athletes that are still doing well to this day.
When we talk about as a head coach, who were a few of those impact players for you that left a lasting impression on you?
Wow. I mean, we had to start with the team that was, got to the Sweet 16. You start with, probably the leader of the bunch, or Raheem Lockhart, who was just really tough, kind of Anthony Boone-like guy. Justin Reid, who I think is the best player that I've ever coached, the hardest worker that I've ever been around. And obviously he's passed now, and we still think of him all the time. His teammates, David Sanders and Aaron Harper. We just had a great combination of guys that had been together and worked together. Jason Flanagan, who's now the head coach at Holmes Community College, was the point guard that started. And probably the guy that people talk about the most that, you started talking about underdogs is Jason Harrison. Those was probably the leaders of the team there. Those are the best players, best team that I coached while I was there. And, when I first got the job, I got a chance to coach Michael White and Keith Carter and those guys. But that team that I just talked about, and those guys were special. And I still see those guys doing well to this day.
Well, you mentioned Jason, and in our conversations before, you were talking about one scenario in the NCAA tournament where they took on the coaching role. If you would, maybe share that with our viewers.
Well, they did. I mean, we were playing Notre Dame, and it was a game to go to the Sweet 16, and we were in it. We would always say, if we can get to the 4-minute mark, and if you hadn't beat us, then you're not going to win the game. And we would prefer to be on defense than offense. Well, we had a crucial play coming down the floor. We needed to stop. And Jason Flanagan made a really good play, a good defensive play. We finished with the rebound, and he pushed the ball up the floor, and he called timeout. And I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? Like, we only have 2 timeouts left. And he said, yeah. He said, we call him, his name is Jason Harris. A lot of people call him Swole. He said, put Swole in. And I wanted to get upset, but I probably would make that substitution anyway. But I'm like, okay. So I take him out and push Swole in, and we run a play. And, I like to say I called a play at the end to make it that he made the shot, but I really didn't. We called another play, and we ended up going, and he just waved everybody down and told them to get down. And I'm like, man, we're running out of time. And he hits a 3, and it's a big a big shot for us. So we ended up going up 2 when he hit the 3, and all of a sudden he calls a timeout. And I'm looking at him, and he said, put Jason back in, put Flan back in. So I put Flan back in, and, all these years, and I tell it when people hear me, man, I was a great coach. But it ain't nothing like having those guys on the floor, because I probably would have done something different. And Jason Flanagan goes back in and guards their best player and gets a block. And we move on to the Sweet 16, where we played Arizona. And I thought our guys played well. They played hard, and we just came up a little short.
Well, I think the thing that is I can remember from that was, those guys played hard. They were always kind of remind us of what we talked about. Away from the floor, you found them together. They were, they got along well. And I'm just appreciative for them because they really set the tone on what the expectations should be in you as well for Ole Miss basketball and what you did and how you accomplished that. And it's so amazing to see now that those two people that you talked about were head coaches in junior college. So, and Flanagan comes from a coaching background, and Swole played with him, so they were really exposed to some great coaching at a young age. But the thing that I think that I see that is prevalent, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but it's the maturity level of the student athletes when they come in now. They're not as mature as they used to be. And when you mention those two, those were two mannerable, mature young men.
Well, that's the thing right now, and I don't know if we can put the blame on anyone, but as student athletes enter college now, they're different, and I think a lot of it may have to do with just the upbringing, and not saying that anyone not teaching or anything, but it was just tougher then. I mean, I can remember times I would come home and my dad would be at work and my mom would say, hey, listen, you got to cut the yard. You got to clean your room. You got to do all of these different things. And before you can do this or before you can go out and play, just different things like that. So society has changed some, and our kids are so advanced. But then a lot of the times what I call like on the job training is just not there like it used to be, to make decisions and without some help or without someone influencing it, whether, like you said, through social media. And, we do have some wonderful, talented students now, and it's our job, to help them develop. But back then, student athletes just came more ready, I think, for as far as understanding and what it took to be successful in college holistically, not just on the court, but across the board.
Well, we're gonna leave Oxford and we're gonna venture way out to the west coast of Bakersfield, and you're entering, if I'm not mistaken, or preparing for your 12th season at Cal State Bakersfield. How does that feel?
Well, it's the longest I've been in a place as far as a head coach. So obviously, the people here must like me or something, or they hadn't gotten tired of me or something like that. That's what I like to say. But it's been a journey. I mean, I came here and we were didn't have a conference. They had just recently, transitioned from Division II to Division I, and expectation they had of me to come here and try to build a program. They thought I had been in programs before that needed to be built and be a part of that, and try to help to build the reputation of the athletic department, but more importantly, the men's basketball program from a D1 level. And we felt like we've done that. Obviously, we've had some ups and downs because we've changed league. We went from an independent to the Western Athletic Conference, which is many people call it the WAC, to now we're in the Big West Conference, and this will be our third year going into that. And we're just looking forward to it. I've worked with some unbelievable coaches, administrators, student athletes to put us in this position. I'm excited about this coming season, and really, I tell my wife, and I'll go after this, Derek, it's places that I've said that I didn't want to go. I said before, I don't know if I want to live in a big city, and somehow I found my way to Atlanta. And I said when I was in Atlanta, I'll never go to the West Coast, and I found myself out here in Bakersfield. So whenever someone asks me about where you going or where you won't go or what you want to do, I keep my mouth shut. And that's what I tell to anyone else. When someone says something, you don't know whether God will lead you to do and impart what he's placed inside of you.
Well, I think the thing that I always try and say, and you've seen me develop over the years, my thing is wherever I am when I wake up, that's what the Lord wants us to be. And we need to take advantage of that day because tomorrow's not promised. And even when I took the job down at Alcorn, so many people was talking about that. But I took what you said a little earlier. I took a can-do attitude, and I think the thing that you have to do in any job you have is don't tell me what we can't do, because I'm pretty sure, I guess I could understand that what we can't do. Tell me what we can do, and let's maximize that. And I know that that's what you've done, and you've made the program attractive enough for the big West say come on in. And I think for you, that's going to be financially advantageous to be with them. It'll help you with your recruiting base, and then also too,
Sure.
putting on my administrator's hat, it's going to save some of that travel budget.
Well, that's one of the things. That was what everyone talked about from the beginning. That not only just the travel budget, but we knew we were spending a lot of money traveling in the WAC. But then we also felt like just time for our students. We used to leave sometime on Wednesday, and we wouldn't get back until Sunday night, and have that much time away for student athletes on a consistent basis. That's not a great experience. Now we have an opportunity to give them a great experience. And I mean, in the classroom and being a part of what's going on with campus, and, having the opportunity to sleep in their own beds a whole lot more than we did when we were in the WAC. So we're excited about it. We have some building and growing to do, but that's what we built for. That's why we were hired to come here, and I'm looking forward to it. It was a great accomplishment because President Mitchell and Jeff Coyne, who was AD at the time, said, "Hey, we want to be in the Big West one day." And they asked me, "Can you get us there?" And obviously, again, they've helped and done so much, but now we're here. Now we don't want to just be here. We want to compete and win championships, and obviously graduate our young people and make sure that they're successful.
Well, you're one of the few coaches that have been able to do this. How was it to coach both of your sons there at Bakersfield?
Different. I can tell you that. Brandon, my middle son, it was hard. He was tough, hard-headed, wanted to do it his way, challenged me a lot, helped me to grow, because I had never had a player that close to me that was that challenging to coach. But he worked hard. I mean, he didn't not follow the rules. It's just, he had his own thing in his own mind, and he was trying to grow and find himself out under Rod Barnes' son, and that could be tough. Bray, my youngest son, was easy to coach, easy to deal with. Yes, sir, no, sir, follow the rules, probably even to a fault. Because I think if he had been a little bit more aggressive, but it was different. After I coached Brandon, I didn't want to coach Brandon, to be honest with you. I'm like, hey, I can't do this again. But then after I coached him, and now I could see what God's hand in the whole thing, and I could talk a whole long story about Bray, and I didn't know who he was, and we got here, and I got a chance to know him. And you think you know your kids, but if you don't spend time with them, you don't know who they are. And how Brandon, and reconciling with him, that we had a tough time when a coach, and now he's my assistant. And man, he's trusted, and he works hard, and I enjoy working with him every day, which I used to hate coaching him on most days. So God intervenes, and he knows. And you just mentioned it, Derek, where he has us, that's where he wants us to be, and he has purpose for that. We want to do our very best to glorify him.
Well, B, man, it's been great. It's always great to talk with you. We get on the phone and we'll talk for a couple of hours. So going through the show wasn't a chore for us. But thank you so much, and man, good luck to you this year. And please tell Ma Barnes that D. Horn said he loves her, and tell Bridget and all those that we miss them. But we want you to have a safe 4th of July. And again, man, thanks so much for coming on the Sound the Horn Sports Show.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. We'll be following you, man, and tell Sheila and everyone we said hello. We love them. And hey, man, I look forward. Hopefully we can catch up here real soon. Maybe I can catch you out on the road when I'm recruiting, get there to Mississippi and the Jackson area, and get a chance to visit with you. But it's been an honor and a privilege, man. I love you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, impacting people's lives.
Appreciate it. Love you too, B. Take care.
Take care.
Welcome to Sound the Horn Sports Show. I'm so excited to host this groundbreaking program that will broaden the Jackson sports scene's awareness regionally and nationally. My goal is to highlight sports in Jackson, the state of Mississippi, and nationally by utilizing my 25 years of Division I athletic administration knowledge, and my guests will be experienced leaders in sports. The guest on the show will share a behind-the-scenes, unique, and informative glance of the world of sports. Please join me every Monday and Friday